Hi everybody, my name is Mattia Chiappa, I hope you're doing well. So I was cleaning up my old hard drive while I stumbled across this piece labeled 2015. And I remember this piece being my very first attempt to writing something orchestral. And what's funny about this is that at the time I remember being pretty happy with the final results, and it will likely be a disaster, But we'll see how it goes. I just thought it would be interesting to have a look at it together and maybe try to fix it. So just by looking at the project, you can clearly see how inexperienced I was. It doesn't, the order doesn't really make any sense, and it's ridiculous. And plus, what is first violin D? So let's try to fix this first, so that we can navigate through the project a little bit better later on. Orchestral kits. What? Orchestral kit symbols. What have I? Jesus Christ. So that's interesting. No woodwinds. Just flutes and oboe, which is unusual, really, for my type of writing. Look at that! Look how much I've boosted that. That's insane. Alright. But let's carry on. Alright, I mean, it's not super neat, but let's all listen. I think we're ready. I'm really curious about this. I mean, it's not too bad. It's not too bad of a start. It's drowned in reverb, which is not good, but it could be worse. Let's carry on. Okay, that's interesting. I would not orchestrate it this way today, but I think the melody is still pretty solid. Let's see what happens next. I mean, yeah, it's just repeating the same melody twice, which I would do today. It's just, it's weird that I'm going big straight away. Really strange. Let's see what happens here. I'm expecting like a B section or something. Alright, it doesn't really make any sense. This is entirely different from the previous statement. And alright, what is happening in the percussion, by the way? What have I used? That is so strange. Anyway, let's carry on. What's happening here? Alright, yeah, mean, I got too much stuff going on at the same time. I probably wasn't sure what the melody was supposed to be, and I ended up having 3 different things. I think I have something on the strings, something on the woods, and something on the French horns as well. Yeah, very messy. What's happening here? Oh my goodness. Well. I mean, yeah, these 2 sections don't really make any sense, and it's just like an entirely different vibe from the thing I established at the beginning, which is, it could be fine. It's just that I remember, wanting to do something, but I wasn't really sure how I was supposed to get there. The structure doesn't really make any sense. So I don't know why I haven't repeated that. The section that came before, it just went straight to something else, something different, which is, it's fine, but I will not do it to this day. And it just goes too big too quickly, and I don't really like that. But plus I'm using choir. What's the deal with this? Seriously? I don't know what was wrong with that guy, but I would not use choir today. So let's carry on. That's cool. That's cool, I like that. Nice. Yeah, part of the problem is that I have too much stuff going on, and the mix is just stupid. But there are some nice ideas. I like this bit over here. What? Okay. Part of the problem with this is that I got too much stuff going on, happening at the same time, and taking away the focus from my melody, or from, the most important elements. And the structure doesn't really make any sense. So I would probably scratch these 2 sections and write something new, because that fits better. But I kind of like the idea of reusing these things I did over here. And I like how it's going back to the rhythm that I used for the main theme for the A section. And yeah, I'm probably gonna do that, right? So I think we can keep most of the beginning, the intro, and I mean, I'm probably gonna orchestrate it differently, but we can keep the same kind of melody and chords, and we'll see what we can do with it. And write something new for this part, as we said. then just going back to the main melody right at the end, and probably end small, just so that it doesn't feel like it's an entirely different piece. So yeah, I mean, let's open up the template and see what we can do. I've spent a couple of days on this, and I've come up with a few ideas. I'm still not entirely happy with it, and the structure still has problems, but there isn't too much I can do about it without changing the whole piece, which I don't really want to do. So let me show you what I did, and we'll talk about it a little bit. So here's what we originally had for the intro. As I said, part of the problem with this piece is that it goes too big too quickly. So my whole idea was just to take it down a notch, starting from the intro. So here's my version, the new version. It still has much of the same flavor of the original, but it's just like I've stripped it down of about 80% of the unnecessary stuff that I had. And I changed the chords a little bit as well. So in the original, we had like some sort of weird pedal tone with some bass notes, and I've just made it like a 2-5-1 in the key of E. So and we're now ending on this nice A at 9 over C sharp. And let me show you a little bit of the strings. So as you can see, I've left those kind of moving lines on the basses and cellos, and also in the original we had that harp line, which I've decided to double on violas first and then French horns, because realistically it would not, in a real orchestral context, you would not be able to hear it without doubling it or boosting the volume. So here's what it sounds like together with the viola. And in the woodwinds, we had that trill on flutes and oboe, which I'm not like super happy about it, but I've left it in because just I wanted to keep a little bit of the original flavor. So let's have a listen to the woodwinds. And of course, the clarinets just double the line at the end, and bassoons are playing the chords. And in the percussion, we got our usual twinkly stuff, just setting up this kind of vibe. So that's it, really simple. So let's move to the next section. I'm gonna play a little bit of the original, not all of it. I mean, this is quite nice, and I've done something very similar. I've taken hints from it and basically gave the melody to flute as well, but the accompaniment is now taken by strings together with piano. So let me play you the new version. Okay, and I've changed the harmony a little bit because when we're dealing with very simple music like we do here, it's important to just keep moving the harmony just to make it a little bit more interesting, and otherwise the piece is gonna get boring very quickly. So I've played with suspensions and tensions and stuff like that. So let me play a little bit of the beginning. That's all I'm doing here, really, and it's important because I want to save the simpler statement of the main melody for the part coming after this, because when it comes in with the real chord progression, it's going to be way more satisfying than repeating the same thing over and over. So let's have a quick listen to the accompaniment I just played on piano. Just suspended chords, really. And on piano, we essentially have the very same thing. That note is wrong. Sorry. Let's change it. And again, the melody is on flute, just like in the original version, and we got some trills on clarinets just to make it moving a little bit. And for the second half of this part, we're just trying to open up a little bit, just to make it transition a little bit better for the next section, which is going to be lower in register. So let me show you what I did. For the second half of this, we got the melody doubled on clarinet, and cellos join in with the accompaniment together with percussion, harp, and all that pretty stuff. And in terms of harmony, it's really quite simple. We're basically just going down the major scale, starting from C sharp. Starting from E. 2, 5, 1. And now that we started to move things down a little bit, the part coming after this is gonna transition in a much nicer way, because we're not just, moving from one register to the other. And we created some sort of bridge to the two sections. So, yeah, let's play the original coming after this. And again, taking hints from the original, what I've done is just I've stripped it down a little bit. It's not going to sound as big, but it's similar in a way. It's mostly a thing for strings. I've just moved it down a little bit. So let's hear my version. I mean, it is my version. Even the previous was my version, but let's hear the new version. really simple stuff. I mean, just passing from one register to the other. We're now down here with open chords, and it's nice and resonant, and the harmony is much simpler than what we did before with suspended chords. It's just basically this. And even here, I'm trying to save the low register. So you see how we go to this A minor chord, right? But rather than using the tonic, I'm still having E on the bottom, just because once I'm gonna hit you with that low A, it's gonna be way more satisfying. And I'm pretty much using the same voicings you see me playing on piano. And yeah, let's have a look to the strings accompaniment. And the melody is doubled on French horns, and we got these violins on top of the violas. Let's have a listen to those two. And to add warmth, as usual, we got harp, just gently arpeggiating the chords. When I do these kind of things, I would usually have bassoons as well, but I've decided to save them for this bit. Some of the counter melodies that we had in the cellos in the original version are just gone now and are being replaced by some words, really, and piano, I believe. Jesus Christ, the mock-up could use a little bit of work. And on the second half of this, we got the very same thing, but with violin 1 and oboe, doubling the melody 1 octave higher. And I did this simply because it was in the original version. If I were to orchestrate this for somebody else, I would, try to take hints from what's in the original and try to stay true to that as much as I can. So let's move on to the next part. As I said a few days ago, the following two sections needed a little bit of rewrite because the original was bad in so many ways. And so I've changed it. Let me play a little bit of this and then we'll talk about it. This is stupid, simply because it has that Celtic kind of vibe, which I hate it. So I wrote something new, and it's much simpler. I'm still taking hints from the original though. So we had the melody on violins over the top. So I'm gonna do that, but I've done like a string kind of arrangement for this. mean, trust me, this works in a much nicer way, because it's something different, but it's not so different that it detaches the listener from, the whole listening experience. And that is very important in my opinion. And I've changed it because I remember at the time being confused. I wasn't really able to come up with a good B section, and I've ended up doing something like that, which it doesn't really work. So let me play you a little bit of the accompaniment without the top line, just so you can hear what we got. I'm still making changes to the music. The mock-up is not very good. Yeah, I love this kind of music. And again, as I've said a couple of minutes ago, I've saved the low woodwinds just so that I could bring them in here once we start moving to the lower registers. So we got bassoons and oboe, just doubling the top line as usual. And right here, I wanted it to get warm, just moving away from that higher register. So I've used French horns on this, and obviously low strings. So let's have a listen to that. I mean, I do this all the time. I love this kind of chords. And I believe I had flute on top, doubling the horns. So let's have a listen to those two together. And now the low strings. And after this, we're going to repeat the very same section again, after a big swell. In the original, we had something entirely different, which again was a terrible idea. I'm gonna play a little bit of that. Again, it has that Celtic kind of feel with percussions and choir, and it's just way too big. So I've just toned it down a little bit, repeated the same section again. Still, this is not what I would do today. I would probably go back to A, because that's the most important part of the piece, right? And just to make sure that people get it, we need to repeat it. But this is what I've done. Similar to what we had before. The melody is exactly the same, but it's orchestrated differently, and it's a little bit bigger. It's still a little bit too big for my taste. Yeah, so we got this part going on in the strings. So big open chords with violas and cellos arpeggiating, moving between the chord tones, which is gonna sound terrible here, but it does the job really, is background stuff, so it doesn't really matter. And on top of that, we got low brass and harp just for glue. If you want to do this kind of orchestration, it's very important to keep the brass down in dynamics so that you can get that very warm tone that they have. And what else? Let's play a little bit of the horns together with the trombones, just to see what they sound like together. And look what I'm doing here. I'm just dumping out as soon as I'm done with the crescendo, just to make sure we're still saving colors and we're not over orchestrating. I mean, I am over orchestrating a little bit, but try to, save colors all the time. And what else do we have? What's this? Yeah, just flute doubling the melody line. And for the second half, we got pretty much the same thing, but we're dropping out the violins just to let the trumpets take over. So let's have a listen to the brass again. So really simple stuff, trying to move colors around and, just make some sort of development for the piece. It would have been way too easy just to keep the melody on the violins, but I mean, it's just a nice, interesting change and it doesn't call too much attention to the ear. So I've kept it this way. So let's have a quick listen to what we have on percussion, just because I can't remember what I did. I mean, just glisses and accents and stuff like that. So, let's move on. Alright, for this part, I'm still trying to hint our original melody because we haven't played it in a while. And it's not gonna come right after this, but I wanted to make sure still just to give a little bit of a hint with it so that we are still in the same piece. So the strings join in, the violins join in with this pretty chord. Not that. And we have the melody on top. Let's have a listen to that. I think we have flutes and oboe on the melody. And we have that chord on violins. Plus, I think on the melody we have Glock and piano. Do we? Not just Glock. So let's have a listen. Okay. And I mean, the rest is just playing like a diminuendo just to bring the dynamics down again. The next part, which I originally I ended up hating it because it doesn't make sense with the rest of the piece, but I've still kept it in. But again, part of the problem with the original version was that it was going too big. And I'm making the very same mistake here, but I mean, it is what it is. So let's have a listen. And I've reused this only because I like the chords, really. And that was not a very good idea. It doesn't make sense for the structure of the piece, but let's have a listen to the new version. So these are the chords I'm playing, exactly the same as the original. As you can see, even back then I liked suspensions. And this is mostly played by brass. We got trombones at the beginning and then French horns join in later on. Okay, what's happening in the woods? Alright. Flutes and oboes join in on the second half just to helping the build a little bit. Because it would be a little bit strange if everybody all of a sudden joined in right after the big build on brass. So just making these orchestrational crescendos helps for glue. So let's have a listen to the strings. I think we have some spiccatos and a tremolo on violin first, and then they all play the suspended chords after this. And then let's have a listen to percussion. It's a little bit busier at this point. I think we have like a roll on bass drum. We have the chords on piano, and harp is pretty much mirroring the spiccato that we have on violas. Let's have a listen to that. That's it. Alright, and then it gets real big with strings in 3 octaves playing the melody. Jesus, sorry. And we have some stabs, some percussion again. I like that glitch that we have on harp. It's on the F sharp pentatonic. And I think I do it every time I'm hitting an F sharp major chord, simply because, you know, I'm just playing it over the black keys on the keyboard. And on brass, we have some stabs that go together with percussion. Actually, let's play it together with percussion. And of course, we have a harmony on the French horns, and the trumpets join in on the second half of the phrase, just doubling the melody, essentially. As you can see, I'm still saving colors. I'm not using the trumpet on the first half, trying to, you know, have some form of development. And woods, we have some runs in the flutes and clarinets, and then the same stabs on bassoons. And the cool little thing I did here at the end is just having the last stab on beat 2 rather than 1. And then in the original, we had that weird kind of idea going on glockenspiel and piano and that twinkly stuff, which was not good. So I've changed it a little bit. Let's have a listen to the original first. I still kept the same concept of, those passing melodies and between instruments and just keeping it soft in general. So let me play you the new version. All right, so we got the melody on cello first with the accompaniment on strings, and then the melody goes to oboe, and then we have it on flutes. We drop out essentially all the strings, which come back in right at the very end for the last two chords. So let's have a listen to the accompaniment first. And I'm reharmonizing it again just to keep it moving and interesting even at the very end. Let's play a little bit of the woodwinds. And notice how I'm dropping out the strings and reintroducing them after a couple of bars just to glue this part to the next. And for warmth, down here we got the French horns joining in with the accompaniment and a little bit of harp. So that's it. And I think, as you saw, this version is much cleaner because I've pretty much stripped it down of about 80% of the unnecessary stuff that was going on with the weird percussion and counter melodies, and it was not good. But I'm still not entirely happy with it, partly because the structure is not super tight, but there's not too much that we can do about it unless we start making drastic changes. I will go back to the main theme right here after the B section and maybe just do the big build-up crescendo, just save it for later on in the piece, make the piece a little bit longer, or maybe not doing it at all. Not every piece needs to go big, right? So let's play the full version and then we're done. Cool. So as always, if you enjoy this type of content, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon page. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.